Well, welcome back to the Equipped for Life podcast. First of all, I am not Josh. You've probably noticed that already. Yes, Josh is here. Say hi, Josh.
Hi.
I am getting excitement.
Know what's happening.
That is exactly what's going on. Josh does not know what's happening, which is why you're getting me at the top of this podcast. I am so excited because today is a very special day. We are currently recording the 100th episode of the Equipped for Life podcast. This has been a crazy journey in the history of ERI, and I'm just so excited that I'm here and like part of the 100th episode. So we're going to be talking a lot about that today. But as a result, because we have the 100th episode of the podcast, we have some very special people on the podcast with us today. The very first time we have the entire ERI staff all hanging out in one place at one time that you get to see. I mean, we do hang out all together. That is a thing that we do. But you don't usually get to see that. So I just want to take a second and welcome everybody. And if you could just say your name and like what you do at ERI in one sentence. I don't need your entire bio, but like what is it that you do? Who are you? Let's start with Josh.
I'm Josh. I'm the president and co-founder.
I'm Rebecca. I do academic research. I travel and speak, and I create online content.
I'm Joshua. That's how we kind of differentiate between the two of us, is I have the schwa at the end and Josh doesn't. But yeah, I am the video editor and one of the club coaches for our affiliate group program.
Hi, I'm Ellen. I'm the administrator, which means I do the boring stuff. Make sure we all get paid. I press send on a lot of the emails.
I would like to say, while it might sound boring, Ellen keeps ERI running.
Yep.
I don't think
single-handedly.
Any of us... Yes, single-handedly keeps ERI running. I don't know how we would survive without Ellen. I really don't want to see that day.
I don't either, because then I need a new job.
It would be very... I do this spiel. Like when I go around and do like pregnancy center banquets, like anytime, like when the staff gets together, whenever they introduce the administrator type person, I'm like, you run the show. You're one of the most important people here. Like I'm always trying to like build them because it's funny, but it's also true. Like it really is true. And those people aren't built up often enough. So Ellen should be very, very built up because Ellen rocks.
I appreciate that.
Last but not least, y'all should already know me, but I'm Emily. I'm the Director of Education and Outreach, which basically means that I run our affiliate group program and our high school curriculum and kind of our putting out of educational, teaching young people content. I run our social media channels, that kind of stuff. So today we get to hang out with the whole ERI staff, which is super, super fun. And when we hang out as an ERI staff, we obviously talk about abortion a lot. That's probably really obvious. But we also talk about a lot of ridiculous things. We do have staff meetings every single week. We all get together. We also get together in person sometimes. And we end up on a lot of random tangents. So I just want to start out today, get to know us a little bit more. And I have a question that I would like everybody to have a chance to answer. Maybe we can discuss a little bit. It's a pretty deep question. But Josh, I'm going to start with you. Would you rather fight 10 duck-sized bears or 5 bear-sized ducks?
Okay, 10 duck-sized bears. I would definitely go 10 duck-sized bears. Whenever I see this style of question, I'm typically thinking the smaller animals, I've got at least a chance to punt, like as they come at me. Whereas anytime I am imagining some like really large, even if it might, like, I'm not expecting to outrun, anything here. So yeah. I think I would go for the small things and hope that I can punt them in self-defense only, of course.
Otherwise known as you can kick them.
Right.
So we're kicking the duck-sized bear. Interesting. Okay, Rebecca.
If it's coming at me, I don't know, what would you do?
Very definitely. Okay, can I say this right? 5 bear-sized ducks.
Say more.
I think like 10 duck-sized bear. I can't punt them all at once. I've seen bear cubs. Grew up with bear cubs in my yard occasionally because not in a city in the Pacific Northwest. Probably for the purposes of this, we're not saying there's like a mama bear around anywhere, but that's fine. But like, I would rather fight things with the temperament and like strength and mobility of a duck than a bear, even if they happen to be big. Also, there are fewer of them, so there's that. But ducks waddle, bears run and attack and have sharp teeth. And
good point. These are all good points.
These are very good points. Alan, I'm curious where you stand on this one.
Oh, I'm with Josh. 100%. I'm going for the little bears. And listen, I need you to know, I I was in fact prepared for this question, and I did do research and take notes.
Oh my God.
Is that all your research
Please.
for this specific?
Well, yes,
Do
because
tell.
Oh, we discussed this when you weren't here last
I was
week, Josh.
prepared. You have to understand, Josh, I was prepared to 1v4 this if I had to.
All right, Ellie.
I love
Hit
the
us.
confidence
Okay.
and enthusiasm. Go.
So, I mean, obviously, ERI style, there are some clarification questions we could ask, like what flavor of bear and or duck. But for our purposes, I went with sort of the average is of both categories. So I was comparing the average American black duck, which is a medium to large size duck native to North America, against a sort of the average female American black bear. So like the smallest, chillest bear you can reasonably find that's not a baby bear, just to kind of try and even things out. And the thing about it is that if it's the size of a duck, sort of a comparable mammal is like a Yorkshire Terrier. It's little. We're looking at like at most 4 pounds. And if we're talking about a bear-sized thing, we're talking like between 160 pounds, 200 pounds, and also like 4 feet to 6 feet long. And at that point, we're getting bigger than me, the human. And it would be so easy to like
Also
really
bigger than me.
Yes. It would be so easy to get in trouble there. Like once you start scaling in size, you are also scaling in strength. Also, ducks, the way they're built, their neck has good reach. It can come at you with like a giant duck beak mouth. And I mean, I suppose that does make them vulnerable to beheading, but I just don't trust that I would be able to do that. I'm with Josh. I think it would hurt. I would get bitten and clawed some. But I think ultimately I have much better chances of actually like surviving and punting and throwing the small bears. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I love the amount of research that went into that. I think that just made my day. Joshua, any pushback, agreement?
Well, I guess maybe the thought that keeps coming to me is that it's like, well, if there were like a cuddling option, I feel like that probably the 10 duck-sized bears would probably be, preferable. But also, since like maybe my question is like the nature of the fighting. Is this like I'm walking in the woods and then all of a sudden I lock eyes with whatever creatures and then I just instinctively know, oh, we have to duke this out, like sort of thing? Or do
Roll
I get
initiative.
to like choose like, oh no, I'm going hunting for my 5 bear-sized ducks, like, oh, I get to kind of pick my hunting party and my weapons and stuff like that. Like, how prepared am I?
This is a fabulous question.
I've
Joshua.
thought about this a lot also.
Oh.
So I did actually run this with some of my other friends because I was like, okay, if I'm the only one not on the same teams, like what am I missing here? So I went and consulted others and there were lots of questions about the variables. And I think like all good thought experiments, we're trying to sort of isolate things.
Right.
So for isolating for primarily the size and type of the creature, like we're just sort of both us and the creatures want to throw hands for whatever reason. Like we're in the like battle dome and we're locked into combat. Then the question is, do we have weapons? I say probably not because that just I don't know. I mean, I guess the animals come with their own weapons built in. I don't know. What are y'all thinking?
I mean, this kind of goes into how I would answer my question, which I guess is it's a requirement that I'm allowed to have a prop in my version of this answer. So I guess that maybe I would change my answer if I wasn't.
Oh.
I don't think I need a weapon. What I want is bread. Because I think that duck-sized bears are not terribly distractible. Like bears have kind of a goal, which is me. And there's 10 of them, and that's a lot to handle. Because like even if I could successfully kick some of them, the other ones are going to be trying to eat me at the same time. Ducks, while vicious, are much more distractible and generally speaking, less interested in me than the food that I have. Granted, I guess it doesn't have to be bread. If I can have some sort of food on me, I think I could more successfully like isolate the ducks, like get a couple of them distracted over here while I fight this one and then get another one or just run away in general. Like I feel like the ducks are less interested in me than the bears are.
I feel like,
But
despite your like 5'0" frame. Like I
5'1", Josh, you got to get that right. It's 5'1". The one is very important.
Very sorry. Yes. How much bread do you feel like you would need to distract a duck that large from like not just eating you? Like you need more than a loaf of bread, right?
But ducks aren't that interested in. Are ducks? I thought ducks didn't eat like meat. Right?
Well, then why are we fighting it?
Well, hang on. So, speaking as someone who's gotten bitten by a duck before.
Okay, same, Joshua. Tell me more about that.
Well, I mean, so it was more of a surprising experience. Well, this was several years ago. I was like trying to feed the duck the bread, and I was like trying to point to it where I was feeding it the bread, and instead of eating the bread, it tried to eat my finger. But the thing was
that's because it thought your finger was the bread, not because it actually wanted your finger.
I'm also glad that. I mean, the beak was pretty like, they didn't have any teeth. So this isn't like geese. I think I was hurt more emotionally than I was like physically because I was like, I really wanted you to eat the bread I was feeding you and you bit the hand that feeds you. So, I mean, it's just,
literally.
Yeah.
I've also been bitten by a duck and like, it didn't feel great. I was shocked and scared because I was like 5 or something, but it also didn't hurt. I've not been bitten by a bear, but I'm fairly confident that would hurt a lot.
But the duck, I have to point out, in this case, is giant. And so the strength of the bite will, in fact, scale.
Well, that's true. But also, okay, so I've talked about this before. Whenever I'm like exercising, I'm like telling people, I feel like I'm built more for agility rather than strength. So it's like, if it comes down to fight or flight, it's probably going to be like the flight sort of thing. So
distract the ducks and get out of there.
But I'm just thinking, I'm wondering if there's a way that you can use like their size against them. Like, I feel like this is a theme in several TV shows or something, is if I'm like running around them or tripping the duck or tricking the duck or something along those lines, you know.
Just spear.
Yeah, there are other options that, again, the whole fight premise is that it's like, well, maybe I can outmaneuver these things, you know, with speed and trickery, especially if I'm not going to get anything to fight it with. Because also, it seems to me like if it's just regular human against pack of animals or like super-sized animals, like that's not really fair. Like if you don't get any sort of like thing to...
Prop.
Yeah, prop.
Item.
Weapon, item, something along those lines.
The question didn't claim to be fair.
I thought the question definitely assumes you don't have anything with you. It does.
And if you get to have something with you, I think it doesn't matter because at that point you can get bear spray and that will take care of sort of both problems.
Duck spray.
Exactly.
That's fair. I guess with my food thing though, I was imagining this is somewhat of a normal situation that you found yourself in. Like I was just at the park hanging out, having my picnic. And then suddenly, I don't know, 5 bear-sized ducks show up.
That's normal.
In my head, that's why I can't have a weapon, but I can have food. Because it would be a normal occurrence for me to have food in this weird world.
I think crucially, the question is also like not which would you rather encounter, it's which would you rather fight. Like we're not running away from the situation, we're fighting.
True.
I think Rebecca and Joshua have convinced me that I probably should have thought more about what it would be like to try to run away from a giant duck that is inherently waddling. Like, that might be different than being chased by a T-Rex, you know, like of the same size or whatever. Like, maybe like there's no way for this thing to be able to make it past. Maybe flight instead of fight might be the best. I just want to say, like, you know, so I just came from a donor trip where I had like 13 meetings with donors in like 72 hours. And so there's certain things that I end up sort of naturally saying a lot of times. And donors often, especially if they're not paying like really close attention, will often be like, so who's working at ERI right now? Where is everybody? Who is everybody? That kind of thing. And I'm always happy to go through everyone's sort of dossiers. And I often sort of end with, I'm basically trying to collect the best, smartest pro-life people that I can find and put them on one team together. And I just want to say, the fact that our administrator earlier said, as all good thought experiments go, definitely proves that we are collecting the smartest people. Even our administrators are more careful about philosophical thought experiments than the average administrator, I'd say. That was just excellent. Excellent. I'm so proud of our entire team for how well you thought through that thought experiment.
Also, shout out to Ellen's blog post recently. If you haven't read that, you should. It's very, very awesome.
Ellen has a blog?
Blog post on our blog. We have a blog, Josh. Equal Rights Institute has a blog. You may have heard of it.
Oh, that blog post. Sorry. Like, don't tell me that I've had Ellen all this whole time and I didn't know that Ellen had a blog. Okay, no, yeah.
ERI also has a podcast.
Yeah.
No way.
If people have not
You can
read
find me on that
Ellen's
one too.
amazing blog post that somehow Ellen just showed at a staff meeting like, I wrote a blog post over the weekend just over some time. And it was like one of the best blog posts that we've published in like a while. Okay, we're going to have to link to that in the description because maybe most people didn't know. Ellen wrote that. It was so good. You need to write more blog posts. I've already in part of my plans, but you are definitely writing more blog posts in the future.
Well, thank you.
Well, back to the podcast. We are here on our 100th episode. And after a lot of ridiculousness, I think we should actually talk a little bit about the actual podcast. And I just want to take us back for a second and talk a little bit about how we even got here in the first place, how we got to the 100th episode of the podcast. Josh, could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in podcasting? Like, what was your first podcast experience?
Yeah. Okay. So I knew I wanted to start a pro-life podcast back in, so it was like 2018, I think, right? 2018?
Like your very first podcast? Didn't you have like Life Report ages and ages ago?
I'm so bad at dates. Okay, so whenever year I moved to Fresno, when was that? Ellen might know this better than I do. It would have been, I worked at Right to Life 6.5 years before this. This was like 11 years. We started this in 2014. 2008. Okay, 2008 is the year that I meant. And I do this a lot because 2014 is when we started the ERI. 2008, I start there. I'm on the drive from Georgia to Fresno, driving our big rental truck, and we have like our cats, and my wife, and she's asleep for most of this like 5-day journey. And so I ended up listening to a lot of podcasts because I just discovered podcasts. I was like, podcasts hadn't been around for like a super long time, but they had been out. I finally had an iPod. My boss had given me a little iPod type thing. And I started listening to podcasts. And there was one pro-life podcast. Of course, I went to look at the pro-life podcast. And it was this one priest who had a podcast. And it was kind of like a daily, like couple of minute thing. And it was fine. But I was like, I don't feel like young pro-life people would listen to this very much. So I started like planning, like, what if we had like several cool, young, funny pro-life people on one podcast talking about things in a way that pro-choice people could listen to it. And so by the time I arrived in Fresno, I already had this plan. And in my first meeting with my new boss, I was like, I have an idea. I know we didn't talk about this when you hired me, but I've got this idea for a podcast. Could we do this? And luckily it was Sean Keller, and he was nerdy enough to be like, yeah, we could throw $1,000 of equipment basically into this test idea. And we started it, and it kind of took off, and pro-choice people listened to it. And I'm assuming that's probably everything that needs to be said there.
I love it. Well, I have seen a couple of Life Report episodes. I've by no means watched all of them. I think Ellen has watched much more of Life Report than I have. But I confess I did do a little bit of digging last week. And I just want to take a second to talk about how far we've come here. This is the first minute of the very first Life Report podcast episode that exists on the internet, which, by the way, is not the first episode of Life Report. Tragically, it appears that the first many episodes have been lost forever. But this is the earliest episode that exists.
I remember this intro. Oh, no.
I remember this music.
Oh, John Liz and Carrie. Oh, wait. All right.
You're listening to Life Report, pro-life answers for a pro-choice world with Josh.
I just had a moment where I was as immature as Carrie.
Carrie.
Shut up, Liz.
And Liz.
The only thing worse than rapping is not rapping.
This is Life Report.
Today I'm headed over to the job fair at Valley View High School to find some new interns. Want to get some fresh blood, euthanize this place.
Is that not awesome? As soon as I saw that on The Office, I was like, that's so a clip for the show.
Now, do you have TiVo? Is that how you're doing all this?
No, I can. I'm actually streaming the episodes on Fox's website or NBC's website, and I can rip them because I've got. That's how I was doing that. Techie abilities.
Josh is a high-tech copyright infringer.
Not as bad as you are, my friend. You taught me how to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh wow.
I have a lot of questions. Regardless of whether you were listening to that clip or were able to watch that clip, there is a lot that I have questions about.
Go ahead.
Number one, why are we listening to quotes from The Office? What is happening?
I think probably because I had a lot of like morning shows in my head as I was trying to like create this thing. And so as I would listen to like morning shows, Howard Stern show, all kinds of like different, like what are different, like that was a typical morning talk radio thing, is grabbing lots of clips. And I thought there are so many funny Office clips that sort of like very, very slightly kind of touch our issue like that. And I thought let's just have something funny be in there. And it might have been cringy the entire time. I don't know, but it made me laugh.
I mean, I think it made all of us laugh.
Yeah.
Number two. Okay, so I was right. That is a young Jonathan Keller who was dancing like crazy through that entire video intro.
Yes, that was John Keller, who was my boss, who had agreed for us to kind of go for this. He wasn't on that often, but he would come on sometimes as kind of like our political expert guy. And there was a guy, Michael, on there who was not on very often at all. I actually didn't remember him being on the podcast at all, but he was cool, kind of local pro-life. It worked a lot with youth people and stuff like that. And then Carrie.
And then
Guy,
who are your two co-hosts? So, like Carrie and Gabby?
Yeah, Carrie Guy, who was on there, she was post-abortive. She's like a post-abortive speaker and really understood kind of post-abortive people so much better than we did. And then Liz Seward. Liz Seward. I remember when I sat down with John, I was like, I need two young, funny, smart women. I can't have this be a bunch of guys. So, if I'm going to be on this, who can you find me? And he was like, you need to meet with Liz and Carrie. We changed co-hosts as time went on. Eventually, Gabby Veers was on. Gabby was awesome. Tim was on sometimes, but yeah, those were the originals. We were in a little church library.
I was literally about to ask that. That was the jankiest looking setup I've ever seen.
It is really janky. Everything was on the table. I literally had a little webcam as like an extra camera kind of thing. Because I was like, I found something else that will record video. I will use this kind of a thing. The books were really helpful for sound dampening. Like it was like really natural. Like it sucked sound a lot. It was in the middle of this big church that was kind enough to just sort of let us use it for free. So I'd have to drive down there. It was an hour to get there from my office, and then like an hour and a half or 2 hours to like set everything up. Then everyone would arrive. Then we'd record like as many episodes as we could, like 3 or 4 or something like that, because it's a big deal to do this. And then I'd have to tear everything down and bring it back up. I was so happy when finally we had the funding to build a little studio. But it took like at least 100 episodes or something before we did that.
We got a studio long before 100 episodes for the ARI podcast. So you've come up in the world.
Right. By this point, I was like, yeah, let's not wait that long. We did start the ARI podcast in what's now my office in my house. We did that for a while, but it wasn't long before once we decided to start doing video stuff. Like once we bought the camera equipment for like the Saddle counseling class, we're like, we're going to need a studio. We're going to need somewhere we can set all this stuff up and leave it. So, yeah.
Last question. How old were you in that video?
Okay, so 2000. So it's 2008. Is that what we said?
That's what
we said, 2008.
I was born in 83. So 17 plus 8, 25. I was 25. It's roughly 25.
So
and I've said to people a lot. I'll just say, like, looking back, one of the so I hate the way that my face looks, and I joke to people a lot. It took it's several years now that I've had this beard, but it took like 10 plus years of front-facing ministry for someone to be nice enough to tell me that I do not have the jawline for a goatee, which I didn't even know jawlines were a thing. I'm not fashion sensible to know that's a thing. Finally, someone told me you should try a beard, and now I'm stuck with it. But I wish someone had told me back then. You
look fabulous, Josh. We love your beard. We love the way it looks.
What a glow up.
It's fabulous. Yes.
It's definitely better.
As a matter of fact, I was going to do this a little later, but you know what? I think we should just do it now. We're going to take a second to talk about the evolution of Josh's facial hair.
Oh my God.
Because this is an important part of the Equip for Life podcast story.
Yeah.
So this, I will admit, is much better if you're able to watch this podcast and not just be listening to it, but I'll do some describing for you. I did actually go through the Equip for Life podcast on our YouTube channel, and I have pulled pictures of what I'm calling the evolution of Josh.
Oh, this is bad.
I
That's not a
apologize.
good look.
First of all, that all these photos are not terribly flattering of the way you're talking, because you and I both know this. Everyone tries to take screenshots of people while they're talking on YouTube. People try to do it to me all the time. And you can never look good because you're in the middle of speaking words. So ignoring that, this is the earliest Josh podcasting video that I could find in the ERI history. Like, once we're done with Life Report is over. We are on to the Equip for Life podcast. We've got the goatee, we've got the short hair, and we've got the glasses. But then as time goes on, the hair starts to get a little bit longer.
Oh.
On the top here, we're still in, this is what's now Josh's office, the old recording space, as Josh
The
was
office
describing.
layout's changed.
And then we move into the studio, and the hair, it just continues to get a little bit poofier on the top. But the first thing to change is the glasses. Number one, we go from the wire rim glasses to the thick black glasses, which
That
have
was a
continued.
big change for me. I do remember that being pretty significant.
It was a big change for me. Someone had to convince me that was a good look. For some reason, it took me a while to get my head around thick glasses actually look good. I eventually just had to trust enough people who are like, yeah, this looks good.
It looks fantastic. This is a fabulous choice. Then, just the last picture, this picture. Notice the top of the hair, it starts to go a little wavy.
It does.
We start to get the wave coming in. Couple episodes later, we're at full wave.
Oh.
The full wave
That's when
has
I started doing
arrived.
the curly hair thing. At that point, that's when I started experimenting with trying to actually lean into curly hair.
And you leaned into it well. This is good. I have also, for those of you that have been watching the social media channels, I have been leaning into my curly hair more, which is funny because currently it's straight. But during pregnancy, my hair decided that it was going to be super curly. My hair had always been like kind of wavy and I would just straighten it. But in pregnancy, my hair decided that it was going to be super curly. And now I've just been starting to lean into that. So I embrace it. I embrace the curly hair, Josh. Then from there, we move on and the beard starts to appear.
This was a jump scare the first time I saw it. It was a positive jump scare, but I was like, oh, dang, he's got a beard now.
I know. This is a big shift. I would argue this is the most jarring shift. We've also lost some of the extreme curl on the top, and now it's like a slick back wave that's happening here.
Yeah, it took me a while to figure out how to control this.
And then the curl came back again. And the beard started to get a little longer. And a little longer.
Oh, yeah.
And here we are today.
Wow.
The most recent episode. We're back to the slick back. Not as crazy curly, but the beard has continued.
That's the point that I need a barber. That's like, so it's probably like a week or two after the point that really I had to go to a barber and get it like kind of cleaned up. But then like sometimes I ran out of time and then it's like, oh, wow, this is getting kind of a lot.
So in case you're just listening to this podcast, we will put a link in the description to my summary photo that I put together.
That's beautiful.
This is the evolution of Josh.
Oh, no.
All the photos in one place. You can track along with us.
My wife's going to appreciate that one. She'll think that's
I just like
hilarious.
that what were there, like 10 different stages of that? Because like
Yes,
in my
I
mind,
had
I was
10.
like, well, there's like 3, I think, but
I've
no.
always been an
In
incrementalist.
ERI, we dive into the details. So I'm really appreciative that Emily was able to find the fine-grained changes between the evolution of Josh.
We had to make really sure that we weren't committing the beard fallacy.
Good.
So beyond just changes in Josh's facial hair, the ERI podcast has also gone through a lot of different, I'm going to call them eras,
Yes.
different people that we've had, different
Really,
kind of ways the podcast has functioned. So let's back up. We're past the Life Report days, Josh. What happened that made you start the Equip for Life podcast? What was that kind of impetus?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Good question. But it took me, I was like, what was it? I think Tim and I I think Tim and I might have had a sense that we might have podcasted from like at some point from a pretty early point on. But the impetus was publishing the Equip for Life course. When we created the Equip for Life course, we were at the time kind of working on this idea of having a model where people would pay annually for their membership. That didn't last very long. It was way more technical trouble than it was worth. But like, it was kind of like, how do we keep people coming back and continuing to get it? Because we know that people will be better off if they rewatch the videos at least once a year, but they might not. So what are some kind of things that we can add in to sweeten that deal? An exclusive podcast that would not be released to the public, but just before the course people was kind of the original concept for how we would do that. And then several internal staff debates, and I was eventually convinced to put it public. And then that was really complicated because there were a bunch of these episodes that we had made really only with our people in mind, like our people who have already gone through the Equip for Life course. So it's like, here's like 201 level stuff. Beyond, after you've watched that module, let's talk about beyond that. Or it's like, that doesn't really work kind of putting out in the public. So then there's this whole, I think Jim Burke and like several other volunteers were like really involved and go, Ellen, you're right. Ellen was part of it.
Ellen was a volunteer.
Yeah, when we were trying to figure out what episodes were sort of the dividing lines, I had to pull up that old spreadsheet to figure out where that had cut off.
Yeah. So we had people like trying to help figure out like what would make sense for everybody. Let's put everything that we can out public. And then we kind of did this port where we took it from private to public, but there's still some exclusive episodes that's just for the course people because it really wasn't going to make sense putting out in the public. So there's still cool exclusive episodes back there, but I think we were able to make like 80%, 85, 90% of it public or something like that. So that was the impetus, was let's create something that will keep people coming and growing the course so that we can keep on training people.
I love it. So as Josh mentioned, those episodes are now public. We decided when the staff met with Josh last week, we've labeled episodes 1 through 39 as the Equip for Life course bonus content era. This is the Taylor Swift way of describing the podcast. I know everyone's tired of that phrase, but we're
Ellen.
This is the Equip for Life Equip for Life podcast eras tour, and this is episodes 1 through 39, which is our bonus content era. I want to ask Josh if you have any like favorite memories from recording at that time, but just to kind of set the stage for that.
Yeah.
And you might not. That's okay. But I pulled the first minute or so of the very first Equip for Life course podcast that was recorded, episode 1, when they bite the bullet.
Welcome to the Equip for Life podcast. So the discussion hasn't started yet. This is a real quick intro that I want to record with Tim. Hello. You sound British.
I don't know how else to sound.
What do you mean you don't sound? You're not British. What do you mean you don't know how
I'm
else to
not British,
sound?
but just like a quick hello doesn't sound right
You
in
sound
an American
like
accent.
Jane from Tarzan.
I'm not trying to sound like Jane from Tarzan.
But you do. So I'm just saying.
Can't we walk?
Is that how you always sound when you say hello?
I don't think.
If you meet someone new at church, you sound British.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Ducky.
No, I'm not saying go Cockney. I'm just saying, do you sound British every time you say hello to people?
I don't.
So this is something about today.
But a quick like, I'm here. Hello is natural.
Says Tim.
That's how everyone is going to know me now. As the jerk at the beginning of the podcast.
Or maybe you're
the
British
jerk.
one.
It's going to kind of depend on how this comes out. It could be that
true.
You're the jerk for hassling me.
That's true.
We're like, oh,
You're like,
so
you've
British.
given him way too much crap for this.
It's pretty self-aware at the time. Oh my goodness. There were so many
Episodes 1 through
accents
39.
Tim would have done on that podcast if I let him. I will tell you that right now. Like, Tim loves an accent. Tim will go so quickly into a Russian accent or a French accent or some kind of accent. You got a little sense of it though.
So what I'm hearing is maybe the first era is the era of shenanigans.
There was a lot of debate about how much of like our own personalities and like fun to try to put in the beginning. We had so many debates about this, about like, do we try to open with some fun stuff some kind of like table setting, like tone setting stuff, or do we go straight into it? And at the time, I was thinking we should try to have some fun stuff in there in the beginning, and then people can skip it. At some point, podcasts had changed, and at least like with the YouTube thing, people were going kind of straight to the point, at least at the beginning of videos. So at some point, there's kind of like, all right, let's ditch all the the early stuff. But yeah, there were definitely shenanigans.
I mean, that was something I remember about whenever I was listening to the podcast, at least the first few episodes, I was like, oh, yeah, because I was used to the course videos being like straight to the point and like, super informative. And then when I was listening to the podcast, I do remember I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. I feel like I'm sitting in the room with them. And that there were some times that I was like, are they going to start any time? So that did happen a couple of times. But yeah.
The second era of the podcast is episodes 39 through 57. That is the Josh and Rachel era. And just to set the tone for that, I've got, as you probably guessed, a little clip from the very first episode of the Josh and Rachel era to kind of set the tone. You're going to right off the bat hear some changes that are pretty obvious.
Yeah.
If you're looking for clear pro-life thinking, cutting-edge apologetics, and a fresh approach to abortion dialogue, you've come to the right place. This is the Equipped for Life podcast.
We have new music.
Yay!
And it's cool.
Intro.
And there's a voiceover.
Yeah.
We are relaunching this podcast.
We have a new studio.
We're in a studio. There's cameras.
Yeah.
This is going to be more like Life Report was back in the day for those of you that have been following me since then. So we wanted to do like a quick meta episode because we're completely changing.
What do you remember from that time, Josh? I mean, that was a time of big change in the Equipped for Life podcast.
Yeah. It was really cool to be kind of in here in a place like with like trying to do this in a more professional way. We've been trying a bunch of different, like trying to figure out how to kind of podcast. And I felt like finally kind of getting in here. Rachel was just a really great, unique voice on the podcast. And a lot of, I think this is probably true for a lot of people, but if you got Rachel going and talking about something, there was sometimes she would just say things that were just gold. Some of my favorite episodes were Rachel episodes. So there was a lot of transition happening. We're kind of, there was a lot of sort of interchange happening in ERI at the time. And so we're sort of trying to find like our new normal. And I was really happy with how well Rachel sort of just quickly fit in. It worked. It's not always worked every time I've tried to like co-host a podcast with someone, but it just kind of worked with Rachel. And she was really, really smart and just had a lot of just great things to say. And people were getting to experience that more by hearing her on the podcast.
I'm very hand-heart about Rachel.
Oh,
yes. Rachel was my first experience with ERI, like in person. Because Rachel came to St. Olaf before you did, Josh.
That's great.
Joshua and I got to meet Rachel first, and she was just such an amazing influence on us. It is the whole reason that we eventually got to meet you, and then the whole reason that Joshua and I work here. It's all because of Rachel, weirdly enough. I mean, it's because of the Equipped for Life course, which is still because of you. But and really what started that rolling was Rachel coming to St. Olaf.
Tim and Rachel both were there, right?
Yes, Tim and Rachel both were there. That's correct. Yeah, we spent most of our time with Rachel, but Tim was doing some other stuff too.
Well, and the cool part about that was that I remember that was the first time that I actually felt confident tabling because I was like, oh, if I really screw this up, I can just get one of the experts to come out and just save me. And strangely enough, I took more risks in the conversation and it went way better than it really would have. And I ended up not needing their help. But strangely, the feeling that I couldn't fail really helped me actually unlock a lot of my dialogue skills, I think, because of that experience.
That's really interesting. We should put a pin in this because the concept that you might do better in dialogue if you are less worried about making mistakes, like if you feel like there's some kind of safety net and it makes you for whatever reasons, actually do better. Like that, I've got so many questions about that right now. That's really interesting.
Yeah. If I was going to interject also just on the podcast intro sort of thing, for people who don't know me, I'm also a professional musician. And it's really cool. We have so many musicians on staff or artsy people in so many different ways.
Hold on. You are not just... Joshua is a professional viola player who played in his local Philharmonic Star Wars concerts. Okay. And like has done other concerts. Like we did a podcast recently with or not we, but I did a podcast recently with Joshua, and it was really, really cool. It got kind of nerdy musically, but like if you want to learn more about Joshua, like Joshua is an incredible musician. I'm so glad. I was hoping you were going to tell the story.
Oh, Joshua, you're going to staff retreat.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say on staff retreat, we decided to have a jam session because we're like, this is just too good of an opportunity to pass up. And I mean, that was just a lot of fun. And then I was kind of trying to like go, okay, what different sort of songs would fit the different styles and stuff? Because like Josh is also an amazing musician, but I think he was trained in just a different way for me. So it was really fun to play with him and be like, oh, this is how he thinks about something. It's maybe a little different than I think about something. But my favorite moment was we had all done some songs and then we arrived at this moment. And I was like, hey guys, let's go ahead and let's like riff off of this thing. Like, let's improvise. And then I remember playing something and then we kind of did the thing and it was kind of cool and stuff. And then at the end, I think somebody looked at me and they're like, well, what was that? And I was like, it was the podcast theme.
Well, you did it in the wrong key.
It was in the wrong key.
So
I did it in E minor. It's actually in C
it.
minor. So that was my bad. So, you know, I still think about that a little bit. So,
but I find it hilarious that none of us recognized our own podcast theme.
No.
I feel like I've got a pretty good excuse. Here's my excuse. Is at some point, I figured out that we don't need to put the entire podcast intro at the beginning of this thing. Like, what if we just start with the final big chord, just the boom, and just go right in? So it had been a long time since I'd actually heard that music, because like when I edit, I would just start with the, just boom, and then we're in. And it's like,
you
you're
skipped
right.
the ba-ba-ba-ba.
Yeah. And he's doing this thing. I think I probably found like the wrong like key bed basically for it. It's like, okay, this feels like E minor. And then we kind of found like a chord progression based around it. But then when you said, it's like, oh, now every single time I hear this, I think of Joshua with his viola, like trying to get me to understand what he's playing and me just being like, oh no, it sounds cool. Let's jam.
Yeah. So we're excited. Hopefully there'll be other musical collaborative opportunities in the future for the staff.
I bought a secret musical instrument that only Josh knows about. Y'all get to know about it later.
So next time we have staff retreat into a jam session, Ellen's playing?
Potentially, yeah.
Oh, this is exciting.
Yeah, this needs to
playing
happen.
the mystery instrument.
All right. Well, era number 3 of the Equipped for Life podcast. After the Josh and Rachel era, we move into the Josh and Emily era, an era that is near and dear to my heart. It also includes many guest interviews because, unlike Rachel, I did not live in Charlotte. And so we did podcast a lot during that era, but when I wasn't able to be in the studio, we did a fair amount of guest interviews. So to set the stage for that, I got another little clip. This is the very first episode that I was on, episode number 58. The Josh and Emily era is episode 58 through 86.
Well, I have been welcoming lots of different guests to the Equipped for Life podcast lately, but I don't know if I've been as excited to bring anyone else to the Equipped for Life podcast in quite some time. We have Emily Albrecht, the Emily Albrecht from St. Olaf Students for Life, and now also raising support to be on our staff. You are going to be on the podcast a lot, but mainly...
So I'm on. Josh, any memories from me being on the podcast? No pressure. Not like I'm sitting here or anything.
It had never been so easy to work with a podcaster. I think Emily's like theater background like maybe came into play like more than I would have expected, but Emily is very, very good at being able to just like sit down and know here's what we're supposed to be doing and just like get into focus and lock in. And it just felt easy. It felt really, really easy. Easy and only like Gabby Veers was like this also. Like, and maybe it had to do with you both being really good at dialogue. Like Gabby had a lot of wisdom This is like Gab was sort of like co-hosting, like helping with the last probably, I don't know, like 30 or 40 episodes of Life Report. She was really good at dialogue and had a lot of wisdom. And you came in with so much dialogue experience and stories and ideas. And you had known, like it had been like for a while now, you had been on track you'd kind of figured out you're not going to be this vocal teacher, vocal performer person. You're going to be a pro-life full-time person. And it's like you had been training yourself and preparing yourself. And by the time you sat down there, it was like, I didn't really have to tell you how to do anything except sound check, except trying to get you, when we do sound check, to try to get loud.
I'm so bad.
And it's so cute how what Emily thinks is Emily being loud during the sound check, but it's about half of what actual Emily, once Emily gets peak Emily.
I get passionate, Josh.
She does.
I get passionate.
Very passionate.
More passionate than I think I'm going to every time.
Yep. And it's just an issue if audio clips have passed a certain threshold. So besides that, Emily just sat down. It was almost like she'd been listening to me podcast for a long time. It was just like, okay, I'm ready to go and be your co-host now. It was great. It was easy. Emily had great ideas for episodes. I basically always preferred podcasting with you than doing an interview. We did a lot of interviews at the time. With COVID, I think it was around this time, right? And so there was a lot of there's like everyone's going to be on Zoom anyway. And that was easy. It was easy for me to get in here and just open up a Zoom thing and record with someone. But they weren't the same as being able to podcast with you here in studio. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Josh. You said something that is 100% accurate, which is I had been listening to your podcast for years at that point. And so it was very surreal, I have to say, to get you on the podcast for the first time.
Aww.
But it was so much fun because I did very much feel like that's the thing. And people say this to me now too, after they've like watched a lot of social media videos. And I think we've probably all thought this about other people that we watch all the time. Like I'm a big fan of the Office Ladies podcast. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I know Angela and Jenna, even though I don't.
Mm-hmm.
People say that about me. And it's like, oh, I've seen you in so many social media videos. I feel like I know you, but I don't. And that was true of me before I met you. Like I felt like I knew you, Josh, and I knew so much about you and all the podcasts. And so it felt easy to me to step in because I felt like we'd been podcasting together because I'd been listening to you podcast for a really long time, even though, in fact, you did not have that experience with me. I just had that experience with you.
Yeah. You were very natural, very quickly, and it felt like you'd been podcasting for a long time. It was almost unfair. And the place that not to spoil it, but where we've ended up with this kind of now we have 3 regular co-hosts, it's me, you, and Rebecca. It's like I've been telling people since the first recording session, every donor meeting I think I've had probably, I've been like, I have never had more fun podcasting with people before. Like this, I have finally found 3 co-hosts is typically better than 2 on a podcast anyway. I have never had a chance to be a part of a group of 3 people podcasting and those 3 people gel and podcast as well together. I think there's this magical dynamic that the 3 of us have when we get together. We haven't even done that many yet. I can just tell because I've done several hundred of these by now. And there's just something really, really special about that. And part of what's special about that is what Emily brought as soon as you began to co-host. So Rebecca now is adding this new dynamic of what happens when you add this 3rd super wise theater kid along with Josh and Emily. What happens? And it turns out, in my view, it's pretty magic. It's really, really awesome. I'm really glad that we eventually got there. But yeah, the Emily era was a great era.
Well, thank you. We do have a pretty great setup right now, though, with our 3 co-hosts. Though I do have to say, Josh, you are kind of forgetting about someone because episodes 87 to 91, I have titled the Is Monica a co-host era? Because we went through an era. We're still kind of in that era of we love Monica. Why? Because Monica's amazing. And here is Monica's first ever episode of the Equipped for Life podcast.
Welcome back to the Equipped for Life podcast. We have one of my favorite pro-life people in the world finally in my studio. It is my good friend, Monica Snyder from Secular Pro-Life. It is so good to have you here. We have so many episodes that we want to record in the next few days. So all of the social media people who are like all excited that we're doing like crossover
we have
stuff.
A lot of shared followers.
We have a lot of people excited, and I'm really happy for that.
Yes.
And I am just really happy that we're going to be talking about a lot of different things that I think a lot of people are excited to hear us talk about. There might be some stream of consciousness here. It's not like these are... That was true.
It's the most accurate part of that intro. There might be some stream of consciousness.
Maybe just
here.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I love Monica. If we could podcast more with Monica, I would. And we are. Like, I think it's like, was it this Friday? I think this Friday or maybe next Friday, I'm recording another, like, who knows how many podcasts with Monica, who's going to be flying into this studio. So like, still love recording podcasts with Monica, and it's different. It's definitely different than recording podcasts with Emily and Rebecca. But Monica, if you're wanting to try to figure out what, it's like you want like the relational philosophy stuff, but then a lot of like research and snark on the other side of the table and kind of put those things together, then that's kind of what happens when it's like, I wouldn't say all the things that Monica would say, and she wouldn't say all the things that I would say, but then we sort of kind of like react to the things that each other are saying and end up saying things that we wouldn't have ever talked about publicly before. Monica is one of those people where I sort of have to be a little bit careful about podcasting because it'd be so easy for me to get myself in trouble saying things that I probably shouldn't be saying in public. I'll just say that. There's a few people like that in my life. Monica is one of those people.
There was another really big change that happened in this era when I was scrolling through on YouTube and looking at all our podcasts, which is some fun new tech stuff that Josh is extremely passionate about because he filmed an entire 30-minute video for, I'm not sure who watched this video. Several hundred people apparently are tech interested enough. Ellen is one of them. About the switcher.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's over there. Yeah. I always cringe when I think back to making that video because it wasn't that long after that we ended up going on hiatus for a long time. And so I was sort of like setting people up to be like, we're about to be like putting out more podcasts more frequently because we're not going to have to be like doing as much editing and stuff. And then I don't remember all the things that happened, but I think Equip for Life Academy was maybe one of them. And just like, I felt like I sort of like set people up for something that didn't end up happening. But having that switcher definitely has made it easier to be able to kind of get in here and just kind of easily record. We can record for a long time. It saves time on several things. I don't know if we ended up doing the like, we're not going to like barely, I kind of like was acting like we're barely going to edit. I don't think that ever turned out to be true, but I thought it would at the time.
Well, maybe to just kind of jump on here as the other tech, person on the call. Like, one thing I really appreciate about Josh is just his enthusiasm for technology and how can we make things better, more optimized. And, there are some times, especially recently, I know about audio plugins that like Josh has been like, check this plugin out. This is awesome. And I'm like, you're right. This is awesome. And it's like, and there's like some really cool things that we can do. So, I mean, and it's like, it's techie and nerdy and weird enough that you wouldn't ever be like, like, Emily, we just got this new compressor. This is amazing, sort of thing. And then Emily would be like, that's great. I'm really glad you guys like that thing, And so, but it really does help. So, I mean, that is one thing that maybe I do want to at least bring up and highlight about Josh is that I think his enthusiasm for details like this, it's like it does benefit your life as the listener. It's just you might not know it. So, just wanted to bring that to light.
I remember a board meeting where I showed our board the control surface that I had to buy to finish EFLA on time. Like, it saved us so much time coloring this thing, but I had to buy this like sci-fi looking contraption. And I remember just like doing it really quick. I grabbed it, like, oh, look at this thing. And it's just like 30 seconds. And I put it down. And they're like, you should like ask them if they want you to record an ad for them. Like, that was really, you were so enthusiastic about this control surface. Like, it was really cool. But no, like legit, for any audio nerds listening, like Joshua and I are now doing the 1176 to LA28 compressor combo, which is a really often used vocal chain in like recording studios. It's really cool. They do different. We just watched like a 2-hour amazing video just about compression. It was so good. Yeah. I do like nerdy.
Oh, and to do a little bit more on maybe just one more point, and then we don't want to lose our entire audience here. But it was like, Josh has gotten me really good at compression. I almost like sent him a meme of like Kylo Ren, like in episode 8 when he's like, more, and it was like Josh on compression. That's kind of what I was thinking. But it's like, you never can get, I guess, too good at that sort of thing. I really like a good reverb plugin because then it can sort of make certain things like, oh, and actually there was one time, I think this is relevant because this was the Outreach Stories podcast, or maybe it was the one right before that. I know, or it might have been our post-row webinar. But one of those, I was like super excited because I was like, oh, I could put in some like convolution reverb on this. So for people listening, that just makes it sound like you're in a different room. So I could make Josh sound like he's in like a lecture hall or something. I was like, oh, Josh is going to be so stoked about this, and I did it. And then my feedback was, I hate it. We are never doing this again. And I think I was like, oh, wow, you really must not like it. If it was like, I can see what you were going for. Like, talk to me about what you were thinking. It was just a straight up no. I was like, okay, we are not using convolution reverb in the podcast or anything like that. So that was a good learning experience for me. Very helpful for instrument recording and stuff. But not for podcasting.
Reverb is awesome for like everything except podcast editing. Like I'm trying to de-reverb the podcast, if anything. But we had different thoughts about how reverb ought to get used in a podcast. But besides that, I think that might be the only thing that we've ever disagreed about when it came to like a AV. Like, how do we do like a production thing? Like, usually one or the other convinces the other pretty quickly. But that one, I don't think I'd probably change your mind.
Oh, well, I think I kind of came to see the light in a little bit. I was still a little bit new at the thing. And now I'm like, yeah, that totally makes sense. So
just like in many times, it takes a little while. You've got to let it sit and then the other person can change their mind after they've got a little distance from the conversation.
Work. Take your time.
Okay, getting us back on track. Our final episode era of the Equipped for Life podcast. That is episodes 92 through 100, which is today's episode. We're calling this the podcast relaunch era. Monica is still here. Because Monica never left.
Yeah.
She just keeps coming back because we love her. This is when Rebecca made her first appearances on the podcast. So here's our first episode 92 of the podcast relaunch era.
Well, welcome back to the Equipped for Life podcast. It's been a while since we recorded these. I don't even know exactly what order we're putting everything out. We're kind of getting the podcast put all back together. And frankly, we've been kind of reimagining it. We've been imagining a new version of the Equipped for Life podcast that's usually the three of us and is usually maybe fewer interviews of me interviewing really cool people and more discussions of the three of us and sometimes other staff members about some of the things that are going on. And so
I know we talked a little bit about just kind of like how we got here and how excited we are with these three people. But the one thing we really haven't talked about is this, like what I see happening on my screen right now. This is a new era of us recording online, all of us at home. Do people know where we all even live? That like we are not in the same time zone. As a matter of fact, we have every time zone. Like this is craziness.
I have to explain this to donors all the time because it's really fun now finally being able to say we have people in all 4 time zones, right? Because we have Ellen and I are kind of here in like the greater Charlotte area. You have Emily in, what would you say, like Minneapolis? Would you basically say Twin Cities, Minneapolis?
I say I'm in Minneapolis.
Okay. And then we have Joshua in Colorado Springs and Rebecca in Los Angeles, like greater Los Angeles, basically. So we have all 4 time zones covered on this podcast right now, which makes planning, scheduling staff meetings and things like that a little complicated, but it's also really cool. We're all spread out. We're all able to do all these different things. And it's the 21st century. We don't all have to be in a big office together. As fun as that would be, as fun as it would be one day to all be in the same office, it's okay that we can't all be in the same office and we can still do really great work together.
And every once in a while, we can gather in the same office, have a jam session, also talk about lots of really important things, but really have a jam session and discover whether we recognize our own podcast theme.
Rebecca, what was that like for you coming on the podcast for the first time?
It's really fun. Actually, fun fact, I recorded 2 episodes with Josh that we have not released yet back in May of 2023 at the same time. Was it 2 episodes or 1 episode? I don't know. We recorded
2.
Yep. And then also a talking head video that we have released about my experience teaching my philosophy students how to dialogue well and how awesome that was. But yeah, that was awesome. It was really fun. It's like some acting and some teaching and lots of things that I love and really enjoy. So that was a lot of fun.
We think those 2 episodes got messed up on a hard drive that basically died and everything died on it. I haven't confirmed it. I haven't given up on finding that footage, but I'm like 85% sure that footage probably died. And we'll just re-record those episodes sometime. They were great.
Honestly, I think we already have. I think we talked about a lot of the same things in like episode 92 or whatever the first one was we did back with Emily too, which was great. I think some of what we talked about was like acting and dialogue and genuineness and
then we even did it better this time because this was a really great discussion on how to think about like acting and what's genuine and what's not genuine in a dialogue. I love that we did that discussion.
So Rebecca, you and I, and really all of us on this podcast, except Josh, have gotten to have a really cool experience over the last 100 episodes of getting to hear the podcast first, just as an ERI fan and experience it. And now we all get to be on the podcast, help produce the podcast. Joshua, like what has that been like for you?
Oh, it's been great. I even remember the episode that Josh and I recorded a while ago. It was funny because I remember Josh was talking, and I mean, there's the whole intro and everything. And then my brain was like, oh, and this is the part where the other person talks. I'm wondering what they're going to say. Oh, wait, that's me. Like I have to actually say something, and it has to like sound intelligent. Like it can't just be like, wow, I'm on the podcast. This is amazing. Like, kind of thing, which is kind of what I was thinking. So I had to like try and be like, scrape something together and be like, oh yes, there's a reason I am here kind of thing. So that was one thing. But yeah, I would say that I think that the moment for me that I was like, wow, this is super cool was actually when I was logged into the ERI like YouTube channel for the first time. And I was just like, well, here it is. Like, here's all the videos. It's like, I don't know, if I were this ancient scholar and going to the library at Alexandria, like, oh, these are the scrolls, like, kind of thing. Like, it was just like, that kind of thing. It was awesome.
Joshua, I vividly remember one day in the little conference room outside of the cafeteria at St. Olaf, where we would have our Ollie's for Life meetings. There was one day when, I think it was like before the meeting had started, and you and Meredith and me were all in that conference room, like prepping the meeting. And we had just like finished watching one of the videos of Josh or listening to something. I don't remember exactly what we listened to, but I remember us all having this super funny because we knew it wasn't real conversation about how cool it would be if we all worked for Josh someday.
Yeah.
No, really?
You remember this, Joshua? This is 100% happened. And how it was our dream. We were like, this would be so cool. Like, I feel like I could do this, but also like that's not realistic. I mean, Josh and all the ERI people are way smarter than we are and way better at this than we are. But like, we wanted to work for you, for ERI, to be on this podcast, to make videos, to be part of this team for a really long time. And I know we're not the only 2 people on this call that have that in our story. Ellen, do you have anything? Because I know you've been around watching ERI things for a long time.
Technically pre-ERI, because I found Josh, I think, just right as like in the background, he and Tim were putting together. I was in high school when I found Josh, and I was just immediately obsessed with the approach, especially that he took to it. It was very different than anything else I'd seen on the pro-life issue, and was super helpful, especially the bodily rights materials. That was super helpful. And so when people ask me, what do you want to do? I was like, well, there's this one nonprofit I would very much like to work for, but I just don't really see that happening, mostly because, we're a support raising model and I'm just not built to support raise. But it was always, anytime anyone asked me what I want to do for work, I was like, well, I know where I want to work. I want to do full-time in the pro-life movement, and specifically at this one place. There's a funny little anecdote. I was listening to a lot of Life Report in high school, and at one point, I had figured out that I had taken all the math I would ever need to take like I did one semester of a dual enrollment math class, and I'm an art major. And I'd figured out I'm done with math, basically. So I convinced my principal and guidance counselor. I showed them the receipts and I said, I technically don't have to do this anymore. And so I would spend my math classes, like I would stay in that class as a teacher's assistant. And I would just listen to Life Report and draw and stuff. And one of the first things when I started working here was very numbers heavy. Like I'm in all of the accounting and stuff. I was like, well, dang it. I spent what was supposed to be a math class listening to Josh, and now I have to do math for Josh. So that was really funny. And technically, very technically, this is not my first appearance on an ERI podcast. If you look very hard, and I don't recommend you do because I'm kind of embarrassed of it, but there's audio of me as part of, there was sort of these group Q&A sessions that Josh did with a couple small groups, and I was part of one of them. And that later got uploaded as a podcast to the old. Yeah. I was so excited. That whole internship was worth it just so I could have some contact with you.
You were at the Rock for Life internship?
Yeah.
That I Zoomed for like twice?
Yeah.
No way.
I just was in the office. I didn't travel.
Really good questions.
Well, thank you. On the episode that I was on, we were sitting at this table that was in front of this exterior door. And in the middle of you saying something probably very helpful, a gust of wind came through and flung the door open, and I yelled. And that's in the audio. That's still in there. Yes, it's just really exciting to actually be a part of it now. And I'm really honored even just to, send the emails and do the paperwork.
Oh, we are just so happy to have Ellen on this team. And since we talked up Joshua's viola playing, I just got like, are there paintings, drawings that you would be okay with us putting on screen like right now? Kind of while we just kind of like, hey, you want to know how awesome Ellen is at art? Here's like a few cool things. Like you're just so good at this. And there are cool things that we are working on behind the scenes that we're probably not ready to talk about publicly yet that are only happening because you were on this team. Now, like, regardless of what your typical role is on the team, like, we needed your artistic design abilities sooner than we expected. And so it is just really cool to kind of see you blooming and getting to these other things that you're also really good at. And I'm going to keep on trying to find people to do this stuff that you hate.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, I have one final question for everyone. And I want to start with Ellen, as arguably the most experienced person on this podcast.
Yeah.
What is your favorite episode of the Equipped for Life podcast? If you had to recommend to a listener who's maybe new, what should they go back and check out?
Okay, I did a lot of thinking about this one. In fact, I actually went back and listened to a lot of like the pre-episode 40 stuff, trying to narrow down. And I think 100% the one that people should go back to is episode 37, which is titled Response to Pro-Choice Propaganda. So this was recorded in 2018. There was a viral video going around about another country that had made abortion illegal. And basically, you should just listen to the podcast, but there are some things in it. So the thing I will say is that, 2018 is in many ways very different from, 2025. It's one of the things we pride ourselves about at ERI is being able to adapt. So at some level, some of this is kind of a product of its time, but I found some nuggets in there that I think are really helpful, especially in our post-Roe moment. First of all, this episode has like the most objectively correct take on the Pixar movie Cars 3, because we were still doing that back then. Cars 3 is good. I will die on that hill. More importantly,
I don't think I've seen Cars 3.
Well, you should. It's like maybe the best Cars movie, but y'all
Cars
talked
2
about
is terrible,
that.
But
yeah, listen,
well,
they
if you
talked
haven't
about
seen
that.
Who was the one in the podcast that had?
Tim. But listen, that conversation has already happened in this episode. You can listen to it when you go back and listen to it. But I think more aptly, there were some comparisons made about, let's say, child protective services situations where we're discussing like how to handle abortion restrictions in a flawed justice system. And one of the comparisons I think we all actually should like spend more time camping on, especially now that Roe's been overturned, is, I know people personally who have had really awful experiences with child protective services. I know some people who've been greatly helped by them. No matter how flawed child protective services may be in your particular state, no one would say, oh, obviously, then we should just abolish all, like we could get rid of all laws having to do with protections of children because we can't do this perfectly and it could get messy. So I found that super interesting. There are also some parallels with some, I would say, inaccurate framing of situations by pro-choice advocates, which we're seeing a lot of now with certain medical situations. So there's a lot of stuff in there that's still like really relevant, and I think we should kind of come back and revisit those topics.
I like that CPS thing. I don't remember that, but I like that common ground kind of like sometimes CPS messes up too. It's not a clean, really good.
You had this illustration about William was in his parkour era at that time. It was also fun now just to hear a shout out to your middle kid, William, because I've met him. He's really cool. But yeah, I think that's something we should explore more.
We should explore more the analogy or parkour.
I mean, either.
My kids are still in their parkour.
It's a permanent era.
The permanent era. Parkour!
Rebecca, what is your favorite episode? What should people go back and check out?
I first heard the Equip for Life course, first walked all the way through that, I think in like 2019. And I have been reformed since, but I was not really a podcast person. So I actually haven't listened to that much of the podcast. I think one of my favorite podcast memories is just like what it was like for me to record with Josh in 2023. It was really fun in and of itself. Josh, you're an awesome person to podcast with and just talk with in general. It's wonderful. Also, like I just had a huge family emergency and my personal life was the worst it had ever been. And your care and kindness were so, so huge for me in the middle of that. So that, is my favorite podcast memory, which is not really an episode I can point people to, but I can point people to the Equip for Life course. If you've not gone through the actual course, heartily recommend it. It is extremely discounted below its value. And if cost is a barrier, you can reach out to us. We have ways we can help. But it's so, so helpful. Like I already knew so much going into the course. I talked with probably hundreds of pro-choice people at that point in person and online. I understood where pro-choice people are coming from. I already knew the like bodily autonomy versus fetal personhood stuff from talking with actual pro-choice people. And the course still was insanely helpful to me. So heartily recommend the course itself.
And to be clear, you just said it's discounted a ton. That is accurate. Like, let me give you some real numbers. A single person lifetime membership to the course is $49. $49 one time. You have lifetime access to the course as it is now. Everything we upload in the future to it, which it's always getting added to, and it's awesome. So, just to be clear, it's really cheap.
We're not trying to make money off it, and we're not.
We're succeeding at not making money off of it.
Joshua, what is your favorite episode?
So this is a question I've been thinking about for a while because it's really hard to, I think, answer. And again, I'm going to answer by maybe not really answering it. And the whole reason is I was thinking my favorite podcast episode, I guess to quote Bruce Lee, it's the one that I needed at the time that I needed it. And I think that there's a lot of value to that is that I remember a lot of the episodes I was listening to was, I don't know the answer to this question. I really need to. And then I listened to it and I felt like I got something out of it. So in a way, it was that episode at the time that was the most important, or the best or the most useful. It was the one that I really needed to hear at the time. So when I was looking back, I was like, oh, I remember I've listened to all of these. And I don't know if like right now I would point to it and say this is the best or most important or something. But I remember at the time I needed the answer. And there was a podcast that gave me some really good things to think about. And so that was maybe, if I was going to answer what my favorite episode is, it's that. Now, if you wanted a specific one, I do have a story about one of these, and that is podcast episode 50, which is responding to back alley abortion arguments. And the reason why this one was so iconic was because I was out on a walk. There was a phase for me. This was especially during COVID. I was like walking. There's this really cool park by my parents' house. I was walking through it. You can kind of see the mountains on one side. You can see the flaxen grass on the other side. It's amazing. There's kind of like, a lot of open space. So, it was just a really great place to just walk and listen to basically Josh and Rachel, talk about some ERI, good philosophy, abortion dialogue tips and stuff. So I was listening to episode 50. It was about back alley abortion stuff. And it was really interesting. And I think it was really in depth. And there were a lot of statistics and other things like that. And then I think halfway through the walk, there was this really weird thing that started happening where like the audio was kind of warping. And then I noticed, I was like, okay, wait, am I like losing reception? And then I like checked my phone and then I like backed it up a little bit and it was still fine. So I was like, is this like a sync issue or something like that? It was a little bit sort of like, it was phasing in and out and it was just kind of weird. So then I was like, well, I'm about halfway on my walk or something like that. I guess, like, do I just stop listening to it, or do I do I power through it sort of thing? And so then I made the decision then, I don't know if this was the right decision, but I was like, we're going to power through this thing. So I listened to the rest of the podcast as with this whole phasing effect, because I was like, this is really important. I really have to know what's going on here. I don't remember actually too much about it, but I do remember that experience. And then afterwards, a few days later, there's a message that said something along the lines of, fixed audio. We are so sorry. Like, in Adobe Premiere, we had this problem and the phasing and like, it was really, I'm so sorry. Like, here's the fixed thing. And then I looked at that and I was like, oh, well, at least it wasn't my phone. I might have gotten a headache over it, but at least I listened to the whole podcast with the original audio and now nobody else is going to have that problem.
You were probably the only one on the planet to finish that podcast.
Yeah, I did too.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Me and Joshua, solidarity.
Oh, you did too?
Amazing.
Yeah, I was at my print shop job. I was mixing ink and I was like, this don't sound right, but I'm listening to it anyway.
This is
dedication.
why we should always need to check the file after the export, because this is in the time where I was just kind of quick and lazy with it. I'm like, hey, I've exported it. It must be fine. There can't have been anything that messed up on my timeline without me noticing it. And oh man, that was terrible audio to make anybody listen to. Like, that is the kind of thing, like, there's like tricks that like are done on people where it's like you're made to listen to your own voice, but it's like a few milliseconds off. It's actually a really effective technique of getting someone to stop talking because it is so hard to keep talking while that echo is going on. I can't believe that a few people got to the end of that terrible episode and managed to make it through. Good job. That shows a lot of commitment.
So there's one more thing that I wanted to share too that was kind of related to maybe earlier when Ellen was talking about like, kind of calling in or having a couple of questions submitted, because I wanted to do another throwback to St. Olaf with Emily. I think I may have said this one thing. I think the one thing I have on Emily is that I did finish the Equip for Life course before she did. And I remember the time
that's not even accurate. Joshua, you need to give yourself more credit than that.
Yeah.
You finished the Equip for Life course before I had even started the Equip for Life course.
Oh, okay.
You told me, Emily, you should watch the Equip for Life course. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'll get to it eventually.
I remember that conversation.
You would watch the entire thing. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll watch it eventually. And then I finally started it one day while I was cleaning my room. Like, I just kind of like turned it on my computer in the corner, mostly just so I could tell Joshua that I had started it, not because I actually was that interested. And after about the first minute and a half of the first video, I think I stopped it and called Joshua and went, oh my gosh, this is so good.
Yep.
So Joshua gets more credit than he just finished it before I did. He was on board much faster than I was.
Who knows if Emily would have ever heard it without Joshua, right?
Very possibly not.
Well, I was just happy to see I could kind of see the delayed reaction coming. I'm like, I know how she's going to react to this. I just have to sit and wait a little bit. And so it was kind of fun to see that. But then, of course, we all know Emily's story from there. But another piece that I think is fun to reminisce about a little bit was we had now both been through the course. This was, I think, towards the end of the summer. And then we knew that there was going to be this, it was like an ERI live stream that they were going to basically be explaining a little bit, something about more in depth about the course. And of course, this is Emily. We were like, again, this is like, I don't know, just like war strategy table or something like that. And then she's like, okay, like, we know we have these questions. We have to prioritize which ones are the most important questions to be able to ask. And so, I mean, we had various tiers of questions that needed to be asked. And we're like, okay, we're not going to be a known entity. So it's like, we're going to need to figure out what our most important question is. And we decided that the most burning, most important thing that we were going to ask was about Human Plus. So we're like, yeah, that's good. That's not in the course. We're going to need to ask about that. So then I remember that I was all lined up. I think, I forget exactly, because again, this was a live stream. There's so many comments coming through. I think I pre-typed it. Oh, and Emily couldn't be there for some reason or something. So it was
I don't know why I couldn't be there.
I don't remember
you
why
were the
either,
one
but
we had tasked with getting the answers to our questions.
Yeah. So I remember pre-typing up these questions, queuing them up, like highlighting and copying it so I could just paste it into the editor as soon as the discussion opened for questions. And I think it did fill up pretty fast or something like that. And then, of course, I copy-pasted my Human Plus, question in there. I think Rachel was hosting, and then you were just answering questions. So then, as that all came up, then I just remember that Josh was like, and we have Joshua from, I don't know if it was Colorado or Minnesota. And I was like, he's going to answer the question. And then, and then you did. And then I think the answer was helpful. And then I texted Emily in all caps. I was like, Josh Brom answered my question, and I remember, and then I think Emily texted me back also in all caps. That's amazing, something like that. So it was a big deal.
This reminds me of a funny ERI story that none of you know.
Oh.
This is behind the scenes. There was an inside joke at ERI for a while that got repeated so many times. My wife still does it sometimes, but I don't think any of you know. So early on, this was back in the Life Report days. There was this guy, a YouTuber, who fancied himself like this big, rising atheist YouTuber. And he had figured out early on that it was a quick way to get views if you could go after specific Christian apologists. So he had a bunch of Greg Koukl videos. He had a bunch of Frank Turek videos, and he had a couple of Josh Brom videos where he had specifically responded to me, taking me to task. But we would all laugh so much about this one that he had done, because he was picking on me because it was in one of my first articles for ERI. It was me writing, basically, I was saying that, George Tiller, the abortionist, the late-term abortionist, had been sentenced to life in prison. I was basically saying, I don't want him to be executed. And here is a reason why. Beyond being anti-capital punishment in general, I said, I hope to end up spending time in heaven with him. That is a possibility if he's in prison for a long enough, kind of a thing. Anyway, that's what this guy targets. Okay, Josh Brom. And he would always say my last name with this emphasis that we have been mimicking ever since. All right, Josh Brom. Always. Where is this hell? Yeah, Josh Brom, you believe in a hell? Where exactly is this hell? You keep talking about this hell. Where can you find it, Josh Brom? And so just anytime people would start kind of laughing in between things, we would just start saying Josh Brom. Or anytime people would say my full name for some reason, we were like, Josh Brom. It makes me like this atheist guy. Anyway, that's what you made me think of.
No, we're going to start doing it.
Yes, I know.
Well, to bring us back on track again, I'll go next really quick. My favorite episode of the podcast, I am going to slightly cheat and give you two, but they're back-to-back episodes. They don't actually go together, though. They just happen to be next to each other, and it's my favorite stretch of two episodes. I'll give you the second one first, actually, because this is just fun for nostalgia reasons. My very first episode of the podcast, I love episode 57. It's an analysis of HBO's Unpregnant film, which was one of the funniest experiences. I think that pro-life people in general tend to be very hesitant to overexpose themselves to pro-choice media. Mm-hmm. And to some extent, you should be a healthy person. You don't need to bombard yourself with that. But every once in a while, getting a sense of what's actually happening in that media sphere is a good thing. And Josh and I watched the Unpregnant movie, which was just this HBO movie basically meant for teenagers about a teenage girl who has to go on this epic road trip to get an abortion. And it's basically like a crazy road trip movie, like a best friends on a road trip movie featuring an abortion at the end. And it is the strangest movie to watch, like how they depict abortion, how they depict pro-life people who she does come across, and some of the absolutely wild things that they say about pro-life people or portray about pro-life people. And I don't think I've ever laughed so hard on a podcast as when Josh and I were like watching clips from this movie together, just not being able to comprehend what it even was we were watching at this moment. So I highly recommend. I, by the way, have had several college pro-life clubs in our affiliate group program watch this movie now, like as a club activity, and then talk and debrief about it. And it's really fun. If you are a college pro-life club who's looking to do something a little bit different with your movie night, watch a very pro-choice movie and break it down and talk about it. And Unpregnant is an amazing one to do because it is both ridiculous and funny, but also very thought-provoking. So I love that episode. And I also love the one that's right before that, which is episode 56, Becoming an Effective Lobbyist, using these practical tips with Ali Rack.
Yeah.
I had never done lobbying. I didn't know anything about lobbying. And Ali Rack is amazing.
So practical.
And made me feel so like I could do this. Like normal person Emily, who is not working for ERI at this time, could call my local representative and I would know what to say. And I would know the biggest part, that it actually does make an impact, which is the thing I really walked away from the podcast. I have sent so many of our affiliate groups to go listen to that podcast and do a little mini lobbying campaign with their club, where they get everybody in their club to call their local representative, and using that podcast to help you know how to do it, help you know why you should do it. It's something that I never knew I would be passionate about till I heard Ali Rack talk about it. And she's just really cool.
She is very cool. She's still doing that stuff. She's like getting like paid to do it for other, a different group now, but she is very, very good at that and is getting more recognition for that which is well deserved.
All right, Josh Brom.
Oh no. What have I started? What have I unleashed? The rest of my life.
We have a new vocal stem.
I did cheat. All right. I got it down to 3. My third favorite episode is the fact we've done 2 episodes on humor. And I love that, on like using humor in dialogue. I think that's really unique. My favorites are like the things that feel very, very like quintessential ERI. So I love that we have a couple of episodes on humor in dialogue. One from like early, like one of the like first podcasts, and then I did one later with a Christian comedian, which was really helpful. And then we did one recently, but we did one a while ago on labels and how to define abortion. We originally did it with Eliza Thompson with Think Pro-Life Memes. And I am just proud of how early we were talking about that. I don't think anyone else was talking about that at the time, but I remember seeing, like, I'm looking at, these different quotes and things, the Dublin Declaration and things like that. I'm just like, this is logical fallacy stuff happening in here, and it's subtle, and like we need to talk about it because it's like really confusing people. So we did the one recently. I don't think I even told any of you, but after we released the recent one on labels with Monica that the 4 of us did, Tim Hull, our board chairman, he texted me, best podcast ever. Yeah. Like, this was his favorite podcast. Like he sent it out to all these people. He's like, this is so important. So that's the evidence for that one being really good. But my all-time favorite, I decided, I am so proud. I think it's episode 51, and it's called Why Do They Always Bring Up Rape? And it happened, it was just a result of Rachel and I doing like a philosophy team kind of meeting together. And we both just sort of shared with each other things that we had been realizing about abortion and the question of rape and like that part of the discussion. And we both had figured out new things that surprised each other that we got to bring to the podcast and try to bring to everybody else. And I still think this might be one of the more important like things that I've figured out, which is just that, like, one of them being just that we shouldn't be so surprised or annoyed when pro-choice people bring up the question of rape like early on in the dialogues because they're doing it a lot of times for very reasonable reasons. They're trying to figure out your view. They're trying to understand your view the way our cartographer does, where you kind of figure out the edges of something and then you kind of help fill in. I was talking about like video games where you like start where you like don't see the map except like right where you've been and you just you have to explore. Like that we do that to them when we ask them about late-term abortions right off the bat. And it's for the same reason. We're doing the exact same thing. So we shouldn't get get all annoyed with them. Pick your phrase. But like we shouldn't get so like defensive for like, oh, you're just like trying to put me on the defense or whatever. It's like, this is so so there's just a lot of stuff that is the one episode I did re-listen to that one this morning. Just trying like, I think this is my favorite. And yeah, there's some really good stuff in there. And Rachel has some really, really helpful things to say too. So that's my favorite episode that we've done. But I'll say, Joshua, I love the thing that you said about how like you would find these episodes that were what you needed at the time. And like kind of like quickly looking back through the titles this morning, like certainly there are a few of these episodes that are very tied to something that was going on at the time. But a lot of them are pretty evergreen, are like just kind of like, as long as pro-life and pro-choice people are talking about abortion, this is probably still relevant. And so if there are newer listeners to the podcast, it's like, I'm that guy when I find a podcast I really like, where I will sometimes go all the way back and like, I'm just going to start at the beginning and go because this is all gold kind of a thing. And I'm not saying that this is all gold, but there's some really good stuff here. And I'd encourage people to check it out. But maybe we will just start with the links to all of our favorite episodes in the description. And then people can decide if it's worth listening to the other like 80 or whatever it is.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I will go so far as to say it's all gold, Josh. It is. Like, it's all pretty awesome. And I am so proud and excited to be on for episode 100. I know I speak for the rest of the staff in saying that too, that we're so excited to be part of this era of ERI. And we're really curious to our listeners. You've gotten to hear maybe today on the podcast for the first time, or as you listen to all the other episodes before this, because you're an ERI superfan, you've gotten to hear a lot of amazing topics we've talked about. So tell us in the comments, what are the topics that you want to have heard us talk about by the time we get to episode 200? What's going on for you? What have we not talked about? What's happening in the world? What are you interested in? Let us know in the comments and we'll see you then. Episode 200. See you there.